Hello everyone, welcome back to the Hindu Explain series. I am Kushagra Goel, and in a new week there are new exciting news for us to analyze, and I'm very happy with the engagement that all of you have in the comment section. We at Law Prep Tutorial are really happy to see the engagement. The reason why those engaging questions we put for you and most of you put effort to find out the answers is because see, in the CLAT 2020, the questions that came were with regards to the news that was provided. Our series is about telling you what were the related topics, and that is exactly why I asked certain questions which are not directly in the news, but they are part of your current affairs studies. Okay, so whenever we may ask you any questions, do make notes of those things. Okay, don't leave them. Okay, now coming back to one of the questions that was asked yesterday. So first was with regards to inflation targeting that we had done yesterday. Now the upper and the lower limit is something that the RBI has decided, which is 4% and the upper limit is 6%. Okay. Now those are economic concepts as to why 4 to 6% is ideal. Okay. Nevertheless, the reason that is the threshold of inflation that should be there in the economy, in the sense that inflation should not rise above 6% for goods that we all consume. Because as you know, yesterday I had explained how inflation is a tax on the poor, and that is exactly why inflation need to be kept in control. As it erodes value of money, it is harsher on the poor, it reduces savings, so a lot of other things. So 6% means the general rise in prices of commodities should not be more than 6%. Okay. Now moving on with regards to today's newspaper. So on a Monday again, there is now a call for Bharat Bandh tomorrow, which is December 8th. A lot of political parties have thrown their weight behind the demands of the farmers, where they want a repeal of the farm bills. The talks between the government have not been conclusive, and that is the update that we have as of now. Then on the right hand side, there is an update that see, till for a long time period in the northeast, the mining of coal was based on rat hole mining. Okay, now there is an update that see, once that rat hole mining was banned, nature and biodiversity has returned to those regions. Okay, there are two kinds of minings: open air mining, where you dig in the entire land space, and then there is rat hole mining. You dig small holes and then you go through that tunnel towards wherever the resources that you are looking are available. Okay, now NGT had banned rat hole mining in that region. That is the update. This is a more in the sense of coming back of the nature, or retrieving nature from the resources, from places where humanity exploits them for its own personal use. Okay, that is it. Now moving on, the left hand side there is an update that see, the Serum Institute, which is producing the vaccine along with AstraZeneca and the Oxford Institute, has asked for emergency approval of their vaccine known as Covishield. Okay, they have approached the Drugs Controller General of India. We had discussed and talked about the vaccination process and approval previously. If you haven't checked that out, do check it out. We'll put it in the description today. Okay, now then is all of it is political news. Then there is a story about who are the farmer leaders there who are protesting, who are representing the interest of the farmers. This is an analysis, this is a know-how. For example, we don't know how these people are, what their background is, so this is a knowing them. Names are not so relevant. Okay, now then more political news. There is a DU preparing for again online examinations. Online examinations have been the thing. Then on the right hand side, that cases for coronavirus are dipping in capital Delhi. This is good news in the sense that because without locking down markets, closing them down, because people have started following the guidelines, wearing mask plus contact tracing, all of this has helped in reducing the number of cases in Delhi. Okay, now moving on the political front, again there is news that boxer Vijender Singh has also stated that he will return his Khel Ratna if the demands of the farmers are not acceded to. Then there is NGT seeking action plan for elephant corridors. Okay, so this is environment news. Elephants move in corridors, specifically from one place to another during different seasons. Okay, so this is an order that those corridors should not be touched upon, or if they are, how they can be sustainable and cohabitating the interest of the elephants and other wildlife while humanity's interest can be cohabitated. Okay, once there is a formal update with regards to this, we will talk about it. Okay, now on the editorial front, most of the editorials are not important in the sense of in-depth analysis, but we'll be discussing them, as you know that we discuss all the editorials what they talk about. So on the main editorial, it is there is nothing new about Trumpism, that the idea that Donald Trump became the president of United States, it's something that was deep rooted in the American society. It's something that the American people have largely believed in being conservative, in being evangelical Christians, in being moralistic in the sense of moral policing and widespread racism. So these are the allegations that are alleged against Donald Trump as a president, that he's not a presidential candidate but is a person who seeks his vested interest. Now all that is something that this editorial states is something deep rooted in the American society, and because most of the presidents that were elected were those who were papering over these cracks or did not let them appear, Donald Trump was a symbolism of all that that was brewing beneath the surface finally exploding. Okay, and then how this is the reason why most of the people are trying to look the good in Trumpism is because they want to justify their bad acts through Donald Trump. Okay, now on the left hand side there are two other editorials. One, India has called out the selective approach of United Nations Alliance of Civilizations. Now this is a culture of peace alliance. At this, India has stated that, see, there is a selective outrage on the United Nations part when it comes to other religions who are not based out of Jerusalem. That you know that three religions are based out of Jerusalem as a place: Judaism, Christianity and Islam. Those three places consider that area as sacred. And then India has stated that, see, all this is selective outrage, because if there are violence against Hindus, Buddhists and other religions, then the outrage of United Nations and their members is not as much as it would be if there is a crime against any of these three religions. Okay, and this is why it is stated that, see, this selective outrage is not going to work. Okay, this is also important because, see, a lot of most of the reason why this Citizenship Amendment Act has been brought is because the minorities in our neighboring regions have not been protected by, and that when there is crimes against those people, the United Nations outrage has not been there. Also, this fills the streamline agenda of the Modi administration, the Modi government, which is that Pakistan has been a country which has been a problem state, and no, the world at large has not been questioning them about it, and then that there is a need for some accountability on that front now. Okay, then on the left side there is a tenacious attack. The MPC's policy of prioritizing growth over price stability is clearly fraught with risk. Now yesterday we had talked about how the responsibility of maintaining inflation in check is of the RBI under the Monetary Policy Committee, okay, the MPC, and how right now by not changing the repo rate and other rates and reducing and increasing the forecast of contraction for Indian economy, this editorial states that RBI is a step that is fraught with risk, that this is a risky measure, because if inflation spirals out, then the growth of the economy is not going to be equitable. Because, see, if there is growth but the poor are suffering, then there is inequality on the rise, and RBI is a banker of all Indians and not specific companies or specific individuals. So this is why it is stating that, see, this inflation targeting is the main mandate of RBI, and this is something they should be doing over trying to forecast growth or boon in the economy, because that might not be sustainable in the sense of global demand. Okay, on the right hand side there is a mirage as a panacea for unorganized sector, that this panacea is seen as a silver bullet. Okay, and then this is an analysis of the labor codes. Okay, that's the new labor codes are a mirage for the unorganized sector, that all these new labor laws, basically what they are doing is they seem to be friendly to the unorganized sector but actually are not, and it is just going to foster more inequality in the society. Okay, nothing really specific with regards to how it will happen. apart from things that we have already covered. Okay, so I'm not going to reiterate or repeat them by wasting time, but most of all it is that, see, by reducing the power of the trade unions and not expanding the scope of state insurance based on for example, for unorganized sector, because see, most of the state insurance as per this article is stated that it was given to people who are in jobs for manufacturing or other sectors where you can categorize them, but most of the jobs for unorganized sector laborers are not in those categories where you can categorize them, and hence the new labor laws are not going to help them. Okay, now once there is more detail or anything else that comes with regards to labor law, because see, that is a very specific area of law, and hence we don't believe that is going to be asked from CLAT perspective, because see, that is requires a lot of specific knowledge at the age that you all are appearing for CLAT. That is not something you guys can analyze. Okay, it comes with a knowledge of labor law, comes with a knowledge of industry, economics, different policy measures, but that is a very specific analysis of a law, and hence we don't believe that is going to be relevant from CLAT perspective. That is why we are not covering the labor laws in depth. Okay, now moving on the left hand side of the op-ed is a political analysis of how Bharatiya Janata Party has made more gains in the state of Telangana, which is the doing of the main political parties there, which is the TRS and the AIIM. Okay, nothing specific for us, political analysis, no use. Okay, on the right hand side is something that we need to keep in mind. Okay, this is about the Press Council of India. Press Council of India is a statutory body which is supposed to be protecting the freedom of press in India, but there has recently been an update, a circular issued by Press Council of India, where it has asked media channels to not publish foreign press without taking some oversight over it. Now, oversight, that means that you limit your scope for it, and this is an analysis by the editor of the Hindu group, which is they are stating that the purpose of Press Council of India is not to be a mouthpiece of what the government wants, because if the foreign press is critical of the government, then obviously the government would want us to curtail it. But at the same time, they are stating that, see, this is similar to how the emergency time period was when, but at that point of time, the Press Council of India had stood with press freedom, and that is why the government had taken step to repeal the act and remove the body altogether. But right now, the reason why the government is not feeling any need to repeal the act is because the Press Council of India is becoming a mouthpiece of the government. But for us, what it becomes relevant is the Press Council of India is a statutory body. Okay, and the purpose of it is to for journalism ethics, to oversee that no one is breaching journalism ethics, and secondly, it has to be a protector of free press in India. Okay, now the second is again true fiscal responsibility. Slashing public expenditure amid a recession is a recipe for serious economic disaster. A few weeks ago, we had seen a data point where we had seen that how the expenditure of the government has fallen down in the consecutive quarters. This editorial states that, see, for India to have sustained growth, public expenditure by the government is essential for growth to revive, because see, public sector is something that creates equitable growth in the society. When the Great Depression hit, only the USSR was a country that was able to sustain growth at a high level because of its public sector undertakings, and that had helped USSR reach a superpower status while all the other countries of the world were suffering from the Great Depression. Okay, and this is why it is stating that, see, India is now in a recession, and if the government of India is not spending on public sector undertakings, the economic growth will not rise. This is a responsibility. Now there are 2-3 terms here that become relevant for us. Okay, one is V-shaped recovery. V-shaped recovery means that there is a fall and then there is a growth. So as you know, India's economy is in recession, so there is a fall. The analysis is that, see, India may not have a V-shaped rise. It could be a U-shaped rise also, and then there will be a lot of low point. And for that to not happen, but for a quick recovery, we need public sector undertaking. So what we need to know is what is V-shaped economic recovery, and public sector undertaking expenditure by the government is something that is for more equitable growth. Okay. Now, we'll be understanding this data point from today, because there are certain things that are relevant here. Okay. Then the cartoon is about how Amit Shah has been able to bridge the gap of BJP's expansion in the state of Telangana, something that wasn't there. So that is it. Moving on, again on the political front, there is nothing specific apart from polls and analysis and result. One thing is there which is with regards to Hampi. Okay, so now here is the question for you: when was the Vijayanagar Empire established, and when, on, after which battle did the empire disintegrate? Okay, those 2 years become important in the sense of, because tomorrow then I will discuss how Hampi is a World Heritage Site and what are the relevance of it and why this is important news. Okay, so a brief history, if you all know about the Vijayanagar Empire, then understanding the relevance of Hampi will become far more easier. Okay, so the question, the year when it was established and the year in which it disintegrated, the name of that battle. Okay, then we will discuss Hampi in general tomorrow. Okay, now moving on the front of, there is this news about how Supreme Court has not undertaken the petitions of CA, challenging CA, that approximately 140 petitions are pending before the Supreme Court for a year and a half, and there is news of the government implementing the act, but Supreme Court has not heard the petitions yet. Okay, and that is it from political front. Then on the international front, again the main news is the Serum Institute has seeked emergency use. Do watch the video with regards to how approval is given for vaccines in India. Once approval is granted, Pfizer has also sought emergency use approval. We have discussed all these vaccines in depth at multiple point of time, so we are not going to repeat it. If you haven't watched it, do watch the previous videos. Okay, and then there is news about how Navy also wants to increase the fleet of its fighter jets along with the Indian Air Force. Nothing concrete there. Okay, and then again at the international front also, there is no specific news that is relevant for us, apart from, let's say, that how Donald Trump is now campaigning for Republican Party for Senate majority. All that things, one, they are in concrete, because see, these are political updates, rally has taken place, not relevant for us until something really happens. Okay, and then there is conversation, there are protests taking place in different parts of the world in support of the farmers. India has a huge immigrant population across the globe. Last year, India had the highest number of immigrants in the world. So you know, Indian community is really large, and there are a lot of interested parties across the globe supporting the farmers in general, and that is rising now. Now on the sport front, again there is nothing specific for us. Okay, there is investment news, not relevant for us at all, and how India won the T20 series yesterday. No other news is specifically relevant. One update is there for us from the world of Formula 1. Okay, Formula 1 is a motor sport. In the second category, which is Formula 2, Jehen Daruwala, an Indian, has won a Formula 2 race. So that is an update that you can keep in note, that Jehen Daruwala has become the first Indian to win a Formula 2 race. Okay, now moving on to in-depth analysis. First is the data point. Okay, the data point is from Bloomberg Billionaire Index. Okay, that is the entire thing that you need to know. What is this index talks about and what is it stating? One, there is a realization that, see, India's economy is in recession. For 2 consecutive quarters, we have recorded negative growth. So in 2020, no, Indian economy has tanked. It has reduced from what it was previously, and for the past 18 months, 18 quarters, 8 quarters also, India's economy was falling. Okay, there was a slump in the Indian economy, a slowdown that was already taking place. But in contrast to that, Indian billionaire growth is rising. India has added 85 more billionaires whose value is more than 368 crore. In this year itself, India number of billionaires with the value of more than 50 million US dollars, that is 368 crore, has risen by 85, and now India has 4,593 such individuals with more than net worth of such high. Okay, remember India still has 300 million people, almost the population of United States of America, living below the poverty line. Such poor people, and yet India's economy, such growth of certain individuals is rising. This is an analysis. The third graph tells us how India is even ahead of China and US in terms of inequality, in the sense that 39% of India's wealth is held by 1% of the richest people. That is a huge number in the sense of inequality gap in India. And thirdly, it is an analysis of two individuals, Mukesh Ambani and Gautam Adani, whose growth has risen. For Mr. Ambani, it has risen by 2.8%, and for Mr. Adani, it has grown by 3.5%. So it is just to tell how India's policy, the policies set by the government, are not helping the larger population, but are helping those who are at the higher strata of the income cycle. Okay, and the pandemic has been a furtherance of them, has been a boon time for the billionaires. Okay, so the Bloomberg Billionaire Index and the level of poverty in India are two things that you all need to know. Now moving on, the next thing. Okay, Roshni Act is something we had discussed specifically. Okay, we will put a description of that video today. If you haven't watched it, now you should. Okay, because now what has the administration in Jammu and Kashmir done? They have taken a U-turn. A U-turn in the sense that previously they had stated, when the order of the High Court had come out, that they will evict any and everyone who has taken land of the state since 1990s, that any beneficiary of the Roshni Act should be evicted. But now the administration has sought to divide illegal occupants into two categories. Okay, and they have stated that one category is acceptable and other category is not. That we should, within the people who have taken land, the people who are rich, politicians, businessmen, this category should not get the land, but we are okay with giving land to the landless cultivators and householders. Okay, people who did not possess any land. But now, so previously the administration has stated they don't want any differentiation between anyone, whosoever took land should be removed. But now they have sought a review petition from the court stating that, see, you need to differentiate between the types of illegal occupants. Remember, the original aim of Roshni Act was also to give land to people who did not have it and people who had encroached upon it, but the state was like, okay, for nominal fees we will give you the land. Now the state has taken a U-turn. This is just after, this is a trivia with regards to politics. Okay, the polls were going on in Jammu and Kashmir, then the one party had advocated for removal and campaigned harshly against the Roshni Act, and the other was like, there was no wrongdoing, the benefit was for the landless cultivator and householders. Okay, during election, one party stated illegal occupants should not be there. Once elections are over, that party again, who is in power, has now sought a review of the Roshni Act. So this is how you know politics interplay with regards to elections. So once elections are over, things change. Okay, so but for us the theory still remains the same. The Roshni Act itself is something I had explained. Watch it and then you will understand this U-turn that I am talking about. Another thing that you need to keep in mind is review petition. Okay, what is a review petition? A review petition is to be filed within 30 days of the original order. Once a judgment has come out, the government or anyone can file a review of that within 30 days. Where is it stated? One, in the Supreme Court rules of 1966 plus Article 137. Article 137 gives the power to the Supreme Court to review its own decisions or power to frame rules for review of any decision that they have been. So this, through that they have framed the rules in 1966, because this article states that they have the power to frame rules for review, and then under the rules, Supreme Court rules 1966, review can be filed. So two things become relevant for you all. How is review petition, from where it is a constitutional right enshrined along with the Supreme Court rules, and then the uh, U-turn for review. So remember, this has not been approved by the High Court. The order has not been amended yet. To understand what is going on, I have given you a reasoning key, what categories have been differentiated, plus why and how it is interplaying with the politics of Jammu and Kashmir, how this plays out. Okay, when we had discussed the act, there were questions about what happens to people who are real beneficiaries of the act. Now the administration has realized that there are real beneficiaries of the act, and hence they should be given the benefit. But remember, the High Court order was stated that, see, within them everyone should have been given an equal chance. It can't be that some people who grabbed it got the chance. It was a stated violation of Article 14. Okay, so do watch the video if you haven't, to understand the Roshni Act, because it is something that is relevant for you all from a perspective of constitutional right of Article 14 and Article 21, okay, which we had talked about. That is it from us today. Do remember to watch this, and do check out, answer the question in the comment section about when the Vijayanagar Empire was established and when it ended with what battle, okay, because then we will be discussing UNESCO's World Heritage Site, for which Hampi is a part of. We will discuss cultural sites and biological sites that are there in India, because that is something that can be asked in current affairs. Okay, thank you so much. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up and share it further for those who you believe can benefit from this. And if you are one of those who haven't subscribed to the channel yet, do subscribe to it and press that bell icon so that you don't miss the update from us tomorrow. Thank you so much.